Hello, my name is Gordon Thornton, Professor Emeritus at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. For over 30 years, I taught a college course on death and dying. Early on, I found that teaching classes related to grief and loss were not to be taken lightly. At times, class material challenged my students and myself to our very core. Even today, I have a vivid memory of the emotional impact of class material. During one of my early years of teaching, we were viewing a documentary about an older woman dying of a brain tumor. About 5 minutes into the video, Sue, a non-traditional 40-year-old student, jumped up and ran out of the room in tears. Of course, I followed Sue out to check on her. She naturally made a beeline for the woman's restroom. I was in a bind. Should I or shouldn't I follow her? Luckily, just as I got up my courage to enter the bathroom, another female student saw my dilemma and said, "Don't worry, Dr. Thornton, I'll take care of her." My experiences have taught me a number of things that I would like to share with you. One is that course material in death and dying can trigger strong emotions. As it turned out, Sue ran out of the room because the video reminded her of taking care of her mother, who also died of a brain tumor. Secondly, that when dealing with life-altering issues, it's important to create a safe classroom environment where students have the opportunity to be sensitive, observant, and supportive to one another. Thirdly, that life circumstances can make teaching death and dying a bit tricky, especially when there's an actual death of a student or significant other during the semester. Fortunately, I never had a student die while enrolled in class, but a student did lose her fiancé in an automobile accident. Rachel was about a third of the way through the semester when her fiancé was killed. She thus had to leave school and return home for the funeral. Of course, as you would, I felt it important to inform the class. Not surprisingly, many students already knew we spent a portion of class time in an informal debriefing. The students decided that they wanted to support Rachel in a private and personal way, and thus we did not send a class sympathy card. I suggested that if students felt they needed more discussion or support, they go to our University Counseling Center. After Rachel returned to school, the challenge for me was balancing the course's academic requirements with sensitivity to Rachel's grief. Making up missed classwork was not a problem. However, the new material that we would be covering involved the bereavement process, and with her fiancé's death, I felt it might be emotionally draining. Some things could be skipped. Fundamental information from the textbook and lecture was not an option, even though there was flexibility in the testing of that material. What I found surprised me. Rather than finding the readings a burden, Rachel found the comfort in the fact that her reactions were normal. I've seen this response over and over again with students in similar circumstances. In some ways, it's a form of bibliotherapy. Students have told me that reading about others' stories and theories has taught them resiliency in the face of death. In fact, they felt mentally stronger for learning the material. In conclusion, I've found it helpful to warn students about the emotional link between coursework and past losses. It is vital for death educators to be personally comfortable with their and others' emotional responses in order to create a classroom attitude of acceptance of emotional expression.
Out on the bright sea, sailing along, my bright, bright-eyed girl and me, it was like nothing to be sailing along, watching you laughing, find myself laughing and strong.